people like me. You need people like me so you can point your f***ing fingers and say, that's the bad guy. That's the bad guy. That's the bad guy. That's the bad guy. That's the bad guy.
Welcome to the motherfucking relay. We're covering today's top boxing news.
Okay, we'll start with this. Bam Rodriguez feels impressive win over Fernando Martinez helps him climb pound-for-pound list. Jesse Bam Rodriguez expects the 5 fighters ranked ahead of him on the ring's pound-for-pound list. If he defeats Fernando Martinez in dominant fashion, he anticipates next month, though, the 25-year-old San Antonio native believes he could make a credible case for entering a top 5 spot that consists of Terence Crawford at number 1, Alexander Usyk at number 2, Naoya Inoue at number 3, Dmitry Bivol at number 4, and Artur Beterbiev ranked at number 5. This is on Ring Magazine's pound for pound. Humbly enough, I'm able to say, I feel like I'm placed correctly on the pound-for-pound list, Rodriguez said during the newest episode of Inside the Ring, which premiered on Monday on DAZN. But come November 22nd, if I'm able to go out there and perform how I have been against a fighter like Puma, that's definitely going to put me up there with the Usyks, Crawfords, and the Monsters. No, yeah, you know it. Competing on such a stacked card has energized Rodriguez, a skillful, strong southpaw who wants to become undisputed champion in the super flyweight division before he moves up to bantam. I've said it in previous interviews. My last fight, I was the main event in my home state of Texas, Rodriguez said in reference to his 10th round TKO of South Africa's Phumelele Kafu on July 19th in Frisco. And I wasn't nowhere near as excited as I am for this card, so I think that just goes to show how big this card is, how big the card is going to be. So just to be part of something like this, it's a blessing. If anything, it's just going to make me fight harder to go out there and perform. Like you said, steal the show. He has a lot to compete with on that card. There is Abdullah Mason versus Sam Noakes for the vacant WBO title. There's Devin Haney versus Brian Norman. Depending on how that fight goes and who wins, well, maybe Bam can steal the show. Bam. And of course, the main event. Bam. Benavidez versus Yard. That's surefire fireworks once the opening bell sounds. I think that fight is Bam's biggest competition, the main event. Smaller fighters like Bam and Puma are often in all-action shootouts. You'll seldom see a ho-hum fight down there at Superfly. A boring fight. That's the virtue of the lighter weights. Those little guys fight till a hamburger. Puma is an action fighter, an aggressive one, and so is Bam. He's just got more wrinkles to his game than Puma. I expect Bam to win. Bam. They both have power. They both have volume. What I think is going to separate them is angles and footwork. I like Bam's footwork more than Puma's, and I think that will make all the difference if he wins, and I expect that he's going to. Regarding the pound-for-pound, which he mentioned, at least on my list, Bam currently comes in at number 8, right behind 2-division unified champion Zurdo Ramirez. If Bam does the job next month, he will move past Zurdo, who will drop down. But not only that, if Emmanuel Navarrete, who's currently ranked at number 9, beats Sugar Nunez early next year, he will also move past Zurdo. And not only that, 2-division champion Stephen Fulton came in at number 10 after Canelo Alvarez was ejected from the list per the rules that govern it. No fighter absent of a world title coming off a loss is allowed to maintain a spot. On that predication, Canelo is absent, creating a vacancy that Stephen Fulton now occupies at number 10, in the most danger of being bumped off. But if he wins in December, beats O'Shaquie Foster, and becomes a 3-weight world champion, he will also move past Zurdo Ramirez. That essentially means that if those 3 fighters, Bam, Vaquero, and Stephen, win their upcoming fights, Zurdo drops to number 10. All the way down to number 10, in the most danger of being bumped off. At which point, the only way for Zurdo to gain some more ground on the list would be to either unify with Badu Jack or unify with Jai Opataya, or move up to heavyweight, which I don't think he's gonna do.
See if he can win a title up there.
Which I don't think he's gonna do, but that's what it would take. It would take for Zerto to unify more titles at Cruiser for him to gain some ground on the list, because he has a lot to compete with in Bam, in Vaquero, in Stephen Fulton.
Bam!
It is Bam's intention to gain more ground on Ring Magazine's pound-for-pound list, and that's literally what pound-for-pound lists are for.
I know in the postmodern era, really used as popularity contests to reward what are already popular fighters, but upon its inception, the pound-for-pound list was intended to shed light on smaller fighters that were not as popular as their heavyweight contemporaries to highlight their skills. Most famously characterized by the late great Sugar Ray Robinson, often dubbed the father of the pound for being thought of as being more skilled than the heavyweights of his time, though lacking a heavyweight's size. That if he were the same size as a heavyweight with his skills, he would beat them all.
That's what the pound-for-pound list was for. To shed light on the smaller, less popular fighters. Less popular fighters like Bam, who isn't as talked about as some other guys. So when you hear that he means to use Ring Magazine's pound-for-pound list to rub elbows with the likes of Terence Crawford and Alexander Usyk, Naoya Inoue, Dmitry Bivol, he's got the right idea. That's what it's for. So that somebody might look at that list and say, hey, who's that Bam guy? Why is he ranked next to all of these well-known fighters?
Bam!
Someone might feel more inclined to familiarize themselves with a fighter if that fighter is ranked among guys like Crawford and Usyk and Inoue, so on and so forth. Bam has the right idea. He's got to take care of business next month. I think that he's going to, and we'll take it from there.
Men's super middleweight news. Terence Crawford considers it bittersweet to get the flowers he's getting now towards the end of his career. Terence Crawford accomplished a menu of monumental accolades when he stepped up 2 weight classes to beat Canelo Alvarez in a career-best and historic win in Las Vegas last month. With the convincing unanimous decision win, Crawford, now 42-0 with 31 KOs, became the Ring Magazine and undisputed super middleweight champion, a 5-division champion overall, the first 3-weight undisputed champion among male boxers, and the pound-for-pound king of the sport.
So now many are encouraging Crawford to make a run at middleweight to pursue titles in a 6th weight class. Crawford is open to the idea, but he also realizes the potential prizes he'll be awarded won't carry the same weight as beating the Mexican superstar who was once number 1 on most pound-for-pound lists. I don't know what's left for me to accomplish. Anything that I do now, it won't be like something that I really wanted to do, Crawford said Tuesday in an interview with Bernardo Osuna and Claudia Trejos at the WBO convention in Bogota, Colombia. It would be something that I just want to add to my legacy. I don't think anything gets bigger than Canelo at this moment. There is no fighter out there with the accolades, with the same recognition of a Canelo Alvarez or a Terence Crawford. There is not another fighter out there with the caliber of accomplishments that I can actually say that I would get that recognition. It feels good to finally get my recognition, my flowers, and my just due, after being railroaded and doubted for so many years. It's a good feeling.
I mean, it's the truth. The only guys in league with Terence Crawford in terms of accomplishments at this point are Inoue and Usyk, and he's not about to fight them.
What he gets out of bed for. What I said in the buildup of the Canelo Alvarez fight when so many were convinced that he's just showing up for a check, that he's cashing out and selling his owe to Canelo, I maintained, no, I think he's motivated by the doubters and the years that people spent tearing him down.
He was still motivated. He was still hungry and looking for what was his Moby Dick. A victory so big, you can't possibly play it down.
Play it down and be serious. Only unserious people like Two-Tone the Superstar would look to still propagate narratives against Terence Crawford after he just beat Canelo Alvarez. Crawford continued, it's a good feeling, but it's a bittersweet feeling when it's all at the end of your career.
Yeah, better late than never. That's what they say.
Look, things would have picked up a lot faster for Terence Crawford if the welterweights, what was supposed to be the good ones, didn't all hide from him. And I'm talking about Danny Garcia. I'm talking about Keith Thurman. Guys who I think Terence would have beat blindfolded.
If they didn't use promotion and sides of the street as a means to hide from Terence Crawford, he would have beat all of them a long time ago and moved up from welter to junior middle that much sooner.
While the expectation is for Crawford to fight once again, the Omaha, Nebraska native also hasn't ruled out retirement. He has, however, shunned a return to 154 and an improbable run at 175 pounds.
Yeah, that would just be asking for too much.
Feeling like I am at the tail end of my career and being realistically speaking is different. I feel great, Crawford said, but I am 38. That's one thing that we have to remind ourselves. Father Time catches up on you sooner or later. The things that I go through in camp now, I never went through when I was 30. I am definitely putting in more time in recovery than I ever did in my whole career, but at the same time, I feel that I am at the peak of my career as well. You just go with it day by day.
Peaking in terms of popularity doesn't mean you're peaking in terms of physicality. By all rights, Terence Crawford has exited his prime.
Crawford left the Alvarez fight unscathed, but at the same time could not be said for his counterpart, who has since undergone arthroscopic surgery on his left elbow. Crawford was awarded scores of 116-112,
115-113 two times, and showed a rare moment of emotion when he fell to his knees once he was announced as the winner. "I knew I won, hands down," Crawford said. "Everybody thought that I couldn't do it, so many people were saying, there's never been a little guy that beat the big guy. There were so many doubters, there were so many people that talked bad about me, that I never fought anybody." They continued to say stuff like that even after he beat Errol. That Errol was the only good guy that he fought. That's the narrative. Everything that I went through, my entire career, was for this one night. It could have been tarnished, or I could get everything that I ever asked for. There is nothing they can say or do about it. I'm on top of the world, and all of the emotions flared in my body like, look how far you came. By me doing everything that I wanted to do, my way, led me to this moment. And that's the top of the world.
Bittersweet is right, that only now is Terence Crawford getting the plaudits that he should have got a long time ago. So maybe fighters like Victor Postol and Igas Kavaliauskas are not as popular as an Errol Spence Jr., but when you compare how they did against Terence Crawford versus how Errol did, those guys actually did better.
The guys people criticized Terence Crawford for fighting, fighters like Jose Benavidez, for example, he lasted longer than Errol did.
While Terence's detractors were saying that he hadn't fought anybody. He hadn't fought anybody good. Then he goes in there and starches Errol Spence Jr., and they want to try to hold up that narrative as best as they can, simultaneously defending the fighters who avoided him. Keith Thurman, Danny Garcia, the guys who hid behind promotional politics.
Errol, who sandbagged it and dragged his feet for 5 years, when we could have got that fight that much sooner. And if we did, Terence would have moved up that much sooner. We would have got to see more of him in his prime at more weights. He would have moved up to junior middle that much sooner, fought for undisputed that much sooner,
At welter, at junior middle, perhaps at middle, since he would have had more time to spare.
That's what makes it bittersweet, that in terms of accolades and popularity, Terence has peaked. But in terms of prime, physical peak, well, that's something else. At 38 years old, whether people want to acknowledge it or not, you're not at your peak anymore. That's why there's more emphasis now on recovery.
Because he peaked already. And I know that that seems strange to say given how he just looked. But Terence peaked a long time ago.
He's not actually in his prime anymore. You're living in La La Land if you think he's in his prime at 38. What preserves him is a sparse schedule of activity that has seen Terence Crawford fighting once a year for the last 4 or 5 years, I think.
Recovery. That's the emphasis on recovery. It's not 2 or 3 training camps a year anymore, like it was when he was young. He's not young anymore. Some people want him to stick around, fight on, go for undisputed at a 6th weight. I personally think they're asking for too much. Of course, if he did it, I would watch it. But my recommendation is sail off into the sunset now. It doesn't get bigger than beating Canelo Alvarez. Even becoming undisputed at a 6th weight. That's a side quest. A side mission. You've already climbed the mountaintop. There's nowhere to go now but down.
You know, the list of boxers that overstate their welcome in the sport of boxing, stayed for 1 fight or 2 fights too many, that's actually a very long list, where Terence is now part of a very short one. The list of 5 weight world champions is actually a very, very short list. And the list of 5 weight world champions that became undisputed 3 times, that is even shorter. Now I suppose what compels him to stay is that he is more popular now than he's ever been, and it took for him to beat Canelo Alvarez, jumping up 2 weight classes to do it to get to that point, but 38 is 38.
Dangerously close to 40. Beating Canelo Alvarez the way that he did, it's almost like he was making up for lost time. All of the major fights that he didn't get to have at welter and arguably at junior middle, he made up for by beating somebody that was bigger than them. Bigger than anybody at 147, 154, or at 160. In doing that, he makes up for lost time. Because what's bigger? Beating Canelo or potentially beating Keith Thurman? Potentially beating Danny fucking Garcia? Jermel Charlo? Beating Canelo is bigger.
It's way bigger than that shit. Terence Crawford has taken a good number of belts from a good number of fighters. But not only that, if he closed out his career now, he would close it out with 2 high-profile, 2 signature wins.
The other stuff is bonus stuff.
Extra credit, side missions, side quests. And he said it himself. It doesn't get bigger than beating Canelo. You could move down and see about fighting the winner of Yanni Beck versus Lara. And of course, I would watch it as a boxing fan. But after beating Canelo, it's not really necessary. Beating the winner of that fight, it pales in comparison to what you just did.
For so long, promotional politics and sides of the street were used as a means to put distance between Terence Crawford and those PBC fighters. Now, he's put distance between himself and them in such a way that you already know he's better than they are, even the ones that he didn't fight.
Unless you're fucking retarded or have an axe to grind.
Trying to convince me and everybody else that his resume is lacking because he didn't fight Keith fucking Thurman? Keith is the one that didn't want to fight. Remember? Danny as well. And we all know why.
Because of what he did to Errol.
Trying to convince me and everybody else that somehow his resume is still lacking because he didn't fight Jermel Charlo? I think that's more on Jermel than it is on Terence, because Terence actually wanted that fight, but Terence did one better and beat the guy that beat him. Not just beat him, but dominated Jermel. Terence dominated Canelo.
There's nothing missing on this guy's resume.
And what he just did, we know those motherfuckers ain't about to do it because they're in the same age bracket as him. They're just not as good, not as accomplished.
Quasi-retired.
So I'm of the opinion that Terence Crawford, in spite of peaking in popularity at this point, he should retire. Don't stick around too long. A lot of fighters have made that mistake. Don't rack up any career blemishes that you don't need to. Go out on top. Go out a champion. Go out unbeaten.
This guy's entire career, he did things his way, and in the end, it all worked out. So that's how you finish the story.
Know that a lot of fighters don't actually get the opportunity to retire on their terms, when they want to, how they want to. This guy does. Use it. He's made more than enough money to retire on over the years between what he made at Top Rank and what he made for beating the fuck out of Errol, what he just made for outclassing Canelo. There's nothing left to do anymore, and there's no way to go but down.
He doesn't want it to end. I understand that, but you gotta know when to leave the party.